The War of the Worlds broadcast. Have you ever mistaken a radio show for the end of the world, grabbing your family and fleeing in terror? That's exactly what happened in 1938 when Orson Welles unleashed his CBS radio adaptation of H.G. Wells' novel, making it sound like a live news bulletin of Martians invading Earth. People across America tuned in midway, missed the opening disclaimer, and pure panic set in. Crowds fled New Jersey, traffic jams clogged highways, and phone lines to police lit up with reports of alien landings. Newspapers the next day were flooded with stories of people arming themselves, praying in the streets, and even suicides from sheer dread. Fun fact: one woman in Pittsburgh reportedly loaded her kids into the car and drove straight into the countryside, convinced the end was nigh, only to realize later it was all a hoax. Imagine tuning into what you think is real news, only to hear vivid descriptions of heat rays vaporizing cities. Would you have fallen for it, or spotted the lie? The Great Moon Hoax. What if I told you that in 1835, people believed the New York Sun reported on bizarre life forms living on the moon, from unicorns to winged humans? That's right. A series of articles claimed astronomers had discovered a whole civilization up there, complete with temples and furry bison-like creatures. Readers gobbled it up, sending subscriptions soaring and turning the paper into an overnight sensation. The hoax, penned by reporter Richard Adams Locke, was so convincing that scientists debated its validity for weeks. Fun fact: one astronomer even wrote a letter praising the discoveries, only to be embarrassed when the truth came out. It's hilarious to think about folks back then staring at the moon through telescopes, half expecting to see people waving back. In a world without fact-checkers, a clever story could spark global wonder or mass delusion. Ever shared a wild online rumor without verifying it first? The Piltdown Man Deception. Could you imagine scientists duped for over 40 years by a fake fossil that proved humans evolved in England? Enter the Piltdown Man, unveiled in 1912 as the missing link between apes and humans, with a skull that looked suspiciously perfect. The perpetrator, likely amateur archaeologist Charles Dawson, planted forged bones in a gravel pit, mixing human and ape parts to fool the experts. For decades, this fraud held up in museums and textbooks, derailing real research and fueling national pride in Britain. It wasn't until 1953 that tests revealed the teeth were filed down and the bones chemically aged. Fun fact: the hoaxer used a cricket bat to shape some pieces, adding a touch of absurd comedy to this scientific blunder. Picture elite scholars debating over what was essentially a clever prank. It's like discovering your family heirloom is just a prop from a bad movie. In today's age of deep fakes, does this make you question every breakthrough headline? The Cottingley Fairies fraud. Ever wish fairies were real, enough to fake photos of them playing with girls in a garden? That's what happened in 1917 when two young cousins in England, Elsie Wright and Frances Griffiths, snapped pictures of supposed fairies, sparking a worldwide sensation. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the Sherlock Holmes creator, bought into it hook, line, and sinker, even featuring the photos in a magazine article. For years, believers flocked to the site, hoping to catch a glimpse, while skeptics cried foul. The truth? The girls had cut out fairy figures from a book and propped them up with hat pins. They confessed in the 1980s, but not before fooling millions and influencing spiritualist movements. Fun fact: one of the photos was so popular that it inspired J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan, blending childhood imagination with outright deception. It's a reminder that even great minds can be swayed by a pretty picture and a good story. Would you have believed in those fluttering figures if they went viral today? The Momo challenge myth. In the digital age, could a creepy doll character on WhatsApp drive kids to self-harm? That's the lie that exploded in 2018 with the Momo challenge, a supposed viral game where a distorted figure instructed participants to perform dangerous acts. Parents panicked, schools sent out warnings, and media outlets amplified the hysteria, even though no real evidence linked it to actual incidents. It turned out to be a mashup of old hoaxes, with the Momo image borrowed from a Japanese horror exhibit. Fun fact: experts later debunked it as moral panic, similar to urban legends like Slender Man, but not before it racked up millions of views and shares. Imagine scrolling through your feed and seeing that face staring back. Would you hit share without thinking twice? This hoax highlights how fast misinformation spreads online, turning a scary story into a global frenzy. Have you ever spread a rumor that seemed too wild to ignore? Fake news in the election era. What if I said that in 2016, a single fake story about Pope Francis endorsing a presidential candidate got more shares than real news outlets? That's the reality of modern disinformation, where fabricated tales like this once swayed public opinion and influenced elections. From Russian bots pushing divisive memes to viral posts claiming celebrities were aliens, the internet became a breeding ground for lies that millions swallowed whole. One notorious example was the Pizzagate conspiracy, alleging a child trafficking ring run by politicians based on misinterpreted emails. It led to real-world chaos, like a man storming a pizzeria with a gun. Fun fact, studies show that fake news spreads 6 times faster than the truth, thanks to our love for shocking content. It's like passing around gossip at a party, but with global consequences. In a world where anyone can post anything, how do you separate fact from fiction before it goes viral? The Bermuda Triangle mystery. Have ships and planes really vanished into thin air in a stretch of ocean? Or is it all just a web of exaggerated tales? The Bermuda Triangle legend took off in the 1950s when writers linked unrelated disappearances to supernatural forces, from alien abductions to magnetic anomalies. Despite investigations showing most incidents were due to human error or bad weather, the myth persists, drawing thrill seekers and conspiracy theorists. Fun fact, the area isn't even officially defined, but that hasn't stopped it from being featured in books, movies, and TV shows, turning a normal patch of sea into a pop culture phenomenon. Imagine sailing through and whispering, "Is this the end?" only to realize it's just another day on the water. This lie thrives because we crave mystery, but it reminds us that not every unsolved puzzle is otherworldly. Ever bought into a conspiracy that made the ordinary seem extraordinary? All right, folks, there you have it, the wildest lies that grip the world, from radio panics to digital deceptions. If this left you shaking your head or laughing out loud, hit that like button, drop a comment with your own craziest hoax story, subscribe for more mind-bending tales, and share this with anyone who's ever fallen for a fake. Let's keep the conversation going. What's the biggest lie you've believed? Don't miss out.